Hi printmakers. Okay, this is a demo on how to print your stencil at home or in your own, kitchen or your basement or wherever you have someplace that's relatively clean and you have some space. So we're gonna start with, before you print, you need to get some things together. You need a squeegee. If you're at school, you can find these squeegees over by the sink. If you need a squeegee at home, please let me know. Damien and I will put together a little kit for you to take home that you can use at home, but you'll have to let us know. It'll be nice to have a sponge, a bucket of water or a pail of water if you have it. You can use a sink if you have a sink. I don't have a sink in my studio. So if you have a sink available, that's all you need, but it's having a sponge and it's damp. You need some tape, and the tape is for taping down the image. And you need some paper. I've designed this image so that you can print it on our paper that came in your kit. You can either use your white paper or your newsprint. I would encourage using your newsprint for the first few. They're just a little bit cheaper paper and you can kind of test stuff out, and then you can move to a little bit nicer paper. But that's up to you. I also keep a towel around. I keep a towel around for drying things off at the end. You also are gonna need a spatula. Let me show you that. Of some sort. This is what a spatula looks like. Mine has some stuff on it. Something like this. If you could use like a plastic spatula from the kitchen if you want for this. Just something that can be cleaned up afterwards, and something that is not sharp. And if you're at the studio at school, we have plenty of these over by the sink. The main thing is to have something stainless steel or plastic that you can clean. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is tape down the image. But before you tape down the image, one of the most important things in screen printing is that you center your image, your stencil. You don't want it too close to the edges, because if you have it too close to the edges, it won't print very well. And we also want to mask off all this area. So I'm gonna get some tape, and I'm just gonna tape this down. And I'm actually gonna tape off the whole area around the image. Now, if you're at school, you have access to tape in the cabinet. We have a bunch of brown tape that you can access. If you are at home and you need some brown tape, let me know. You can come pick it up. We can leave it out for you. If not, you can purchase some, at CVS or Walgreens or your local hardware store, or you can order it online. So I'm taping this off. So this is a really important step because you don't want it to, you don't want the ink to leak out your screen, except for in these areas that we've cut. And you'll see the ink kind of goes all over the place. So that's the other thing you're gonna need. I forgot to show you. You need some ink. We have some ink for you as well. All right, so now we just tape that. Then what we can do is turn it over, and you can see now what I'm gonna have here is I can print this stencil through the screen, and only the areas that I have cut on my stencil will print. All right, so we're gonna set up and print here in a second. Okay, now we're gonna print this. So the thing to do is you wanna be in some place where you have some space. Now I'm on a table. You could do this on the floor, but you can also, you can do it anywhere that's kind of flat. So the first thing we wanna do is you get some ink together. I'm gonna get a piece of paper together, and we have to line up our paper. So what we can do is bring my paper under here and kind of get a sense for where it's gonna go. Now what's interesting about this is that it lines up to my, it's the same exact size as the paper that I made the stencil with. But what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna actually make some marks on the table where my screen go. So watch this. Whoops, sorry about that. I am going to tape this down so I know where the paper goes. So I have some skinny tape here. You could also draw with a Sharpie marker or something. I'm gonna put a piece of tape down where the paper goes. I'm gonna put a piece of tape like this, a piece of tape like this. This way, I know where to put my paper down. I'm also gonna put some tape by my screen. So if I bring this in here, I know that that's where my paper is. I can lay this down, you see that? I can see through the screen. I can also tape my screen out on the edges where my screen goes. I think you guys might be able to see that. So I've taped the screen outside the screen here where the screen goes. So that's your first step. We call that registration. And we'll be going over that more in detail as we go along with screen printing. But it's important to kind of have some kind of setup so that you know where things go. You know where your screen goes, you know where your paper goes. Because once you put your ink in there, you're not going to be able to see things very well. All right, we're almost ready to print. So it's handy to have your paper nearby, your ink nearby, your spatula nearby, and your squeegee. Now notice we're just kind of doing this free form. We're just going to lay it down and we're going to print it. Now in this at the shop, you're going to be able to use the clamps on the press, and you'll get more used to the different modes of printing as we go along. So this is printing in a place where you don't have access to water, you don't have access to a press, you don't have access to clamps and things like that. But it's just to show you that you can still make prints, and you can make really good prints even if you're not in the studio. All right, so I'm gonna get some ink. So here's the ink. I'm gonna add it. This is gold. The fun thing about screen printing is that you can print with, you have access to different colors. We have quite a range of colors for you. We might not have gold, but we have like magenta and yellow and blue and things like that. You wanna set this aside, put it by the side there. Then you wanna hold the screen down and get your squeegee. And what you do with the squeegee is you take the ink and what we do is what's called a flood stroke, like that. And then I come here and I hold it firm and I print it. And then I do this, kind of cut the ink off. Then you can set the squeegee on the side. Be careful, your print may stick to the, oh, there it is. So there we go, I just made a print. All right, so now I'm gonna make another one. I'm gonna get a piece of paper. I'm going to set it down on my registration marks. That's why it's important to make your registration marks before you print, because you might not know where to print. Then I put the screen on its registration marks. Then what I can do is I can do a flood stroke backwards, and then a print stroke towards me. Now if we notice, my smaller stencil areas didn't print. They're starting to print, but they're not printing for some reason. So it just goes to show that paper stencil is really good at printing. And I'm getting some circles. I don't know where those are from. They're kind of cool. I think they're already in the screen. So now you could literally print probably 100 of these pretty easily in a day if you wanted 100. But the main thing is to maybe just evaluate where you're at and say, do I like this? Do I want to continue printing it? With screen printing, sometimes you don't know if you like it or not, and you want to make some changes. So I flooded it and I printed it. Look at it again. So here's my third print. Oh, those marks are starting to print. So one of the things that you'll notice is that sometimes with a paper stencil, it takes a little bit of time for the ink to get through to the certain areas. Now, if you put this in a safe place, I'm just setting it on my table in my studio, or you can set it on the floor, it'll be dry in about 10 or 15 minutes, and then you can stack them. All right, so what I'd like you to do is print like 4 or 5 or 6 of these, just to have the experience, so that you can get the experience of flooding and printing and flooding and printing. Now we're gonna clean up. So to clean up, get your ink bucket. I like to set it on the screen, and I take my spatula and I card all the ink, or I spatula all the ink. Sometimes we use a card, so that's why I say card it. But the trick here with screen printing is so you don't have to clean up a lot with water, because it can get messy, it can go all over the place, is to get all the ink you can off with your spatula or whatever tool you're using. You want to make, like I said, you could use a card, you could use a piece of mat board if you have it, something firm that can scrape up all the ink. So I got most of the ink off the squeegee, and I'll clean that off here in a minute. Then I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna get all the ink. So what's cool about screen printing is you can put all the ink back and you can reuse it. So you're not wasting any of it. This thing of ink here costs probably $40, is gold. So it's nice, it is gold, it's like gold. Then you come in with your damp sponge. I'm gonna get mine damp again. Try it out a little bit. And you just clean off the surface. You clean off all this ink. Now, the problem with a cut stencil, whoop. I bonked the camera. The problem with a cut stencil is that you're gonna get it, it's gonna have to come off. That's one of the byproducts of the cut stencil that some people don't like. It's gonna break, it's gonna come off. But in this case, I'm just gonna clean it like this and see if I can save it. But that's okay. And then you clean up the screen, or you could take off all the tape, and then you could do another stencil. You could do another print on top of the print that we just made. You could do lots of different things, and we'll be showing that to you later. But I just wanted you to see that this is the most basic way you could print. All right, have fun, good luck. Remember, you need something to clean up with. If you want to, you can come in with a dry towel and dry off the screen. And then you're done. And you can start over. Now, oh wait, one thing. You can also clean off your squeegee. Or I mean your squeegee and your spatula. So just wanna clean this off. The most important thing is to clean off the squeegee because that ink will dry on there. You can do this in your sink if you have a sink at home. It's water-based ink, cleans up with water. There we go.